Let's move to this now. A report on the state of gender diversity in the listed real estate sector, released 2 years ago by the Women's Property Network, paints a dire picture in terms of representation. According to the report, in 2021, 81% of executive directors in the sector were male, with just 19% female representation. For more on this, I'm joined by Khali Masooane from the SA Property Investors Network. Khali, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, maybe tell us a bit more about what drew you to property investment, and how has your perspective, especially over female representation, evolved over the years?
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Oddly enough, I started in the commercial sector.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, and then I went to residential. And then after that, I was like, this is a bit boring, so let's actually go into education. And that's where I fundamentally saw the difference, because when you're basically on the ground, you're just grinding. And it's only then I realized the difference that in the ground level, there's quite a few women, right?
Yeah.
But the higher you go, the less of us you see. And it's only then I realized that there's a significant change that has to happen, and it actually has to happen now. There's this notion of, no, we're transforming, you know, like you'll transform for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's like it needs urgency, and it needs to happen now.
You're quite right. It does need urgency, but also given the current statistics that I outlined in my intro, they do show significant gender disparity, especially in executive roles within the property investment sector. What do you think are the main barriers preventing more women reaching these positions, especially in the sector?
The first one I would say is education, because it's quite interesting how we have a double-edged sword where the leading first-time home buyers are women, but it's for primary residence. But then when you go to property investing, meaning creating this asset class as a business, we're fundamentally lower. And one is education in the sense that we are taught you get shelter, right? You get shelter thing, but past that, that's usually a man's job, who will take care of you and such. Number two is access to this information and education. We don't make enough of a point to actually teach girl children about education, because it's always under the gaze that a man will provide for a house for you, a man will provide all these things for you. Yes, you can be a lawyer and such, but in terms of creating property as a business, it's more so suited to a man.
Yeah. But how does the lack of female representation, especially at the executive level, how does it impact decision-making and also strategy within the property investment sector?
Fundamentally, I was recently at a summit where like the big boys were there. And when you looked at it, the whole table was male. So I need to say something which would echo into my next sentiment. I once had Vuyiswa, who's now part of a political party, and I was telling her I've never had a female mentor. And she said, well, don't you think it's because the man has the capacity? So on a Saturday morning to see you and mentor you, that's because the wife is taking care of things. So women in a capacity perspective are very like at the last end. So I said that to say at an executive level, not having women means you're not making decisions that are appeasing to women, right? Things like maternity leave, things that affect women and women specifically aren't being done. So we need to almost like forcefully put women there so that the decisions that are made affect all of us.
But to put it loosely, I'm sure it's not doom and gloom. Can you share any success stories or examples where increased female representation has positively influenced a property investment company?
Fantastic, absolutely. So I had the recent pleasure of meeting Tato Ramali, who is the CEO of the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority. And she said part of her KPIs and what she's judged on is 40% of the spend has to go to women. So then she got a popular rental agency to give away the free franchises. And in 3 months, the sales and the transactions that happened with 7 women getting free franchises, basically getting that spot to get in, was 106 million. So it shows you that the change is there. All we need is the opportunity, right? So fundamentally, when women are in charge, women pay back loans in terms of investment. Women are more inclined to make more rational decisions if they are afforded financing. Women are more inclined to actually just do better. So if we just open up the gate, we don't need anything more, just open the gate and allow women to enter these spaces and literally look at the transformation. I think that was not gloom, hopefully.
No, definitely not. But I mean, as we wrap up Women's Month, I'd also like to get a sentiment from you, or just your parting shot, especially speaking to women who are interested in the property sector, but more specifically property investment. What's your word to them today?
Go for it. But property is one of the investments that you're going to learn your school fees. Either pay it now or pay it later. So get the education first, because you can't afford to make a mistake. It's not like any other business where, you know, if a manufacturer didn't do it, oh, somebody didn't get an order, that's it. Yeah. It's very costly mistakes that you can make in property. So before anything, get the education. And once you understand, you know, the playing field, then, you know, the sky's the limit. So absolutely go in there, but go in there with the education.